Right. Now we're going to do, I'm going to talk about something about knowing the world. We live in this world. We want to know about this world. We want to know about what we are, according to what the Buddha taught us. I've said that the world, according to the Buddha, is made up of the five aggregates, material form, which is everything in the world that doesn't have any life in it. So in the world, you have material form and consciousness, or material form and mind. Now, in the mind, the Buddha subdivided into four categories: the world of feelings, the world of perception, or which is both mental identities and memories, which I've talked about previously, the world of mental formations, which is thinking, thoughts, and intention. We are just looking into what is necessary to help us understand the world and cope with the world. The last one is consciousness. Previously, I haven't talked very much about the consciousness. What consciousness is, there are 6 types of consciousness. That's the body consciousness. There's the visual consciousness. There is the smelling consciousness or the scent consciousness. There is the hearing consciousness, oral consciousness. There is the taste consciousness. And of course, there's the visual consciousness. And finally, there is this mental consciousness. Now, what this consciousness do is awareness of a particular sense object. So visual consciousness manifests itself in terms of awareness of visual object. Oral consciousness manifests itself in terms of awareness of sound. Scent consciousness is awareness of sense. Tactile consciousness of body consciousness, aware of what the body can touch. Taste consciousness or tongue consciousness is awareness of taste. Scent consciousness is awareness of all the senses. The scent, the smell. And mental consciousness is aware of mental phenomena arising in the mind. So this mental consciousness is just awareness of mental phenomena. Right. So the mental phenomena arises in the mind is a separate process in itself. And that's the process of dependent origination. So the mental consciousness is just only the awareness of mental phenomena. You can say because we are aware of mental phenomena, therefore we have mental consciousness. It's the same with visual object because we are aware of visual object. So we have visual consciousness. Visual consciousness manifests in that way. Mental consciousness manifests in that way as well, in way of awareness of mental phenomena. Now today I'm going to talk about dependent origination, which is the cause for the rising of this mental phenomena, or you say mental objects that we are aware of. Now, if you can put up the diagram. How we form our world, right? First of all, you got to figure out whether the world is inside us or the world is outside us. What does that mean? Because we can feel, we can touch the physical world. There is something physical outside us, right? So through our contact, our tactile contact, we know that there are solid things outside us. There is liquid things. There are things that are hot and cold, right, outside us. And you can feel their movement of physical things outside us, right? But what we see are just two little images that form at the back of our retina, which is upside down, laterally inverted. That's simple physics, We get an image. From that image, we get this 3D of the world, So where does this 3D come from? That we see in 2D, two little images. Our mind creates this three-dimensional image and then project it outside to fit with the physical things in the world. If you happen to be colorblind when you're born, then you don't see colors. Your world is only black and white. Right? If your eyes are defective, you see a blurred image. Slightly defective. Your eyes defective, you don't see the world at all. Right? So our mind is very good at creating 3D objects. It doesn't need a lot to be able to do that. At night, when you sleep, you need a little bit of emotions for the mind to create a world and put you in that world in your dream. And you do not know any different. You only know it when you wake up. But when you're in that dream, you do not really know. So we create this world through contact. The most obvious is sight, So what happened with contact with visual objects, right? Our mind creates something. So we have these five contacts, contact with sight, contact with sound, contact with sense, contact with tactile sensation, contact with taste. And then from this context, we create a mental identity. We have to create mental identity because we want to know. We want to be able to identify the same thing again when we come across it next time. It's part of memory, but it is in a different form. If you like, with a memory of taste, we have memories of sense, we have memories of sound, we have memories of sight. But these brief memories, for the purpose of identification, I call it mental identities. So as soon as we see this, I say, aha, I know what this is. I've seen it before. This mental identity is created within our mind. Like give the example, the first time when you see this woman who come and feed us, kind woman who clean us, who hug us, and we identify as our mother. And the mental identity that we have of our mother is somebody who looks after us, who loves us, who gives us hugs. Right? And then you have this mental identity of this auntie always come and pinch your cheek. That's all you know about your auntie, about your mother. That's it, mental identity. So next time you see a mother, you expect certain things with certain feeling. When you see your auntie, you expect certain things with feeling. So all we know, all we create of the world, all the things in the world are mental identities. We don't truly know what our mother is like. We don't truly know what our aunties are like, our brothers, sisters. We come to explore, our things given to us. We smell it, we bite it, we try to eat it, and then we discover, not everything can be eaten. So we form mental identities. We come to know about the things of the world through our own experience. It's not through information that's given to us. The mother says, don't eat this, it tastes bitter, and then you try and then you find out what she says is true, So these are reliable information from our mother. So we create mental identities of things in the world. So the first thing to know is that we do not know anything about the world. So you see from the diagram, mental identities, we have light and we have views. This tastes good. This tastes bad. This tastes bitter. This smells nice, So with our mental identity, when we see this thing again in this world, we automatically have this particular feeling for for that thing through our mental identities. Because the feeling is embedded in the mental identity when we form the mental identity, when we first form the mental identity. So it's our first impression of the thing, first impression of people, feeling of life, the feeling of this life. And then we have our views. Or we create more views. And that goes into our mental identity. So of all the things in the world, we start forming our likes and dislikes. Right? But if there's a huge lie, it becomes a craving, So when you're a baby, you taste something like chocolate, or you immediately crave for it. Sweet. It's really sweet. It's really nice, and that's the view, and you suddenly have this craving for it, so because as soon as we like and there is intense liking, it becomes craving. And let's say we taste something like lemon, the first time, always like it, or you may like it, and there is a strong aversion, to that lemon, and our views, and maybe, it's pretty dangerous, to eat lemon, it nearly killed me as well, So this mental identities, we create from the time when we are able to make out sight, sound, sense, tactile sensation, and taste of the world through our context. Then we begin to grow attached to our mother because of this good feeling. You may develop this animosity to our auntie because she comes and pinch our cheek all the time, and it's not a nice feeling. Right? So, and then we find that our mother is our friend, It goes on, and we label it as a friend, an ally, somebody we can depend on, So there's this love and hate relationship that is formed, Then we say, oh, our auntie, is an enemy, It's not a friend, We have to fight off this auntie, And so on. So we develop, our mental identity to that level, from feeling of like and dislike, feelings of craving and aversion, from bonds of attachment, animosity, and the becoming of a friend or enemy. So when you go to school, or you work in a company, then you have an ally, or you have an opponent, right? Especially when you work, So this is somebody you can depend on. This is somebody you got to watch out, where you work or something. Okay, then your views becomes more and more complex, and that's all embedded in your mental identity. So as soon as you are in contact with the sight of a person, the mental identity pops up. This is this person. Or even the sound of the person. This is this person. The scent. This is the mental identity of what it is. Taste. Have this mental identities. Oh, this particular wine tastes good. This particular coffee tastes good. This particular drink is energizing. So we have all these mental identities through our contact. And as soon as we have this mental identity, the feeling arises. Feeling of like, dislike. The two sides of this feeling. One is attachment, one that leads to animosity. That comes from likes and dislikes. Right? So this is our world. Somewhere we are in the middle of this thing. And we create a world through our experiences, through our mental identity. We are at this stage now. If we had known earlier when we were born, we would like to create a mental identity where we have all friends, and allies. We do not want any enemy or opponent. But we, cause our like and dislike, we create, some of us, might create more like, more friends and allies. Some of us will create more enemies and opponents. But you have to know all this arises through our mental identities. So our mental identities are not really sure. They are conditioned. We're not sure our mental identity is an actual representation of the world. Because through our contact in that brief moment of likes and dislikes, we create this mental identity. That's all there is. On the spur of that moment in the past, we create a mental identity. So how close to reality are these mental identities that's created on the spur of the moment? Or mental identity that we create to what we have heard from gossips or from a particular moment in time from a person who gave us their mental identity of another person. How reliable are these? So we do not want to trust our mental identities too much. We do not want to be conditioned by our identity too much. We want to treat all our mental identities as not sure. Whether it's of people, whether it's of things. So apart from creating mental identities, you also create those views of mental identity. And those views, we don't really know where they come from as well sometimes. Because of craving and aversion, we create this view. Because of craving and aversion from another person, they gave us these views. And then we put it in our mental identity. So when we are absorbing information from other people, we really want to identify it. Either identify it as true, not true, or not sure. If we don't, then it simply becomes part of our mental identity. It creeps into our mental identity. Because in forming our mental identity, we want to pack in with as much information as possible. Because we have this crazy craving to know something. Right? What we do not know, we make up something of it. We are good at making up things. There are people who are even good at making up stories, So all these stories, these views, these feelings, this craving, aversion, we want to say not sure of that. Because they are conditioned by our mental identity, which is made up of views. So from mental identity, we get this view. From a new view, we put it in our mental identity. So all the things in the world I'm not sure because of this crazy process. So we really truly have to treat whatever we come into contact with as not sure. Because it is prejudice, it is bias, because we don't really know. Because we do not know whether our information is reliable. Because we do not know the information that we create through our feelings is reliable. You can say that all the views that we have is similar to what you get from the internet nowadays. Fake news, totally unreliable, not quite totally, maybe 65% unreliable, or 70% unreliable, depending on who you are. So you want to take these views that you have formed close to the information that you've got from the internet. But you do not want to, because you think your views are reliable. Not sure about that. You can't be sure about that. Because the views that you get comes from your experience in that particular moment. Most wise people will know, yes, I have this view of this person and this particular person, but I'm going to label as not sure. Maybe my view of who he was at that particular moment is due to his response, his emotion. Whether it's feeling of like or dislike. Maybe this person have this good view of me, maybe he likes me. Maybe he doesn't like me because he has this view of me. But that liking or disliking is just temporary. It is due to his mental identity of me, which is due to his contact with a particular sight or particular sound or particular sense of me. So we have to understand this world of ours. How we come to form this world. How we see this world. How we respond to others. How others respond to us. What's our view of this world? What's our view towards our colleague? What other people's view towards us? They are just views. They are just mental identities. Through previous context, through sight, sound, sense. Okay, so all these are mental phenomena that arises in your mind. That's all there is. Mental identities, views, like, dislike, craving, aversion. To be exact, these things are stored in your heart. The heart is the core, the mind is the result. The result in the minds are just views and thoughts. The causes are these feelings within the heart, this mental identity, this craving, this aversion, this attachment, this animosity. When I talk about heart, I'm not talking about the physical heart. I'm sure you understand, We can, if you like, divide our consciousness or our mind as a whole into two parts. One that is the thoughts and views, and we call that the mind. One that is deeper, we call the heart, the creator of these thoughts and views. Okay, so this is something we intuitively know, the mind. Well, we guess there is a heart, You may not feel the heart, some of you, but you might say, well, I have this worrying of thoughts, so there must be worry in me, worry, the emotions of worry in my heart. Somewhere I have this jealousy thoughts, so there must be jealousy within my heart. I have this angry thought, so I must be feeling angry, within myself. So we usually call that the heart, Envy, jealousy, even resentment, maliciousness, goodness as well, kindness, compassion, the other good side, helpfulness, politeness, so on. So what you have to take care of is not the things that's outside in the world. What you have to take care of are the things that you have created within yourself. From the time you're born until now, your conditioning from your upbringing, your conditioning from your mentors, your conditioning from the books you read. So we have to be aware of this mental phenomena that arises in our mind. So this awareness is mental consciousness. This mental phenomena that arises are the result of dependent origination. Simply said, what dependent origination is that things, phenomena arises depending on something else. Because of this, that arises. As simple as that. Everything arises depending on things, depending on contact with sights and sights or sounds or tactile sensations or taste through our mental identities. Feeling arises. Depending on feeling, craving arises. Depending on craving, there is clinging or attachment. Depending on clinging or attachment, there is becoming. Okay, so all this line forms a views in our mind. All this craving form a view in our mind. That's what arises in our mind, thoughts. Maybe I should have this because I had it before and it's really nice, Always say, well, let's avoid this restaurant. We've been there before, So we form attachments, born of attachment, animosity. So when we have this attachment very strong, then It's only when we have a rejection, that we can reduce this attachment. When we have animosity, then when there is this friendliness, this animosity will lie down. So at this attachment, we have this attachment, the rejection has to come from outside. When we feel rejected, then our attachment won't go that strong. Then we have this animosity. If the friendliness comes from outside, then it can reduce our animosity. So if we have this animosity, we try to create this friendliness. When we have this attachment, we want to reject this attachment. We want to think of this rejection. See, no attachment to someone, we always think, well, that person, will think favorably of us. Right? We have to think the opposite. That person may not think favorably of us. That person may not treat us favorably. Animosity, we want to do it the other way. We want to think, oh, that person may be kind to us. That person will be friendly to one. We propose. So it is dependent origination. If we can, we want to stay with dislike and dislike and not let it go progress to craving or aversion. If we are craving and aversion, we do not want it to progress to attachment or animosity. Right? So if we adapt, we do not want it to progress to becoming a friend or becoming an enemy or becoming an ally or becoming an opponent. So at each of these states, we want to reduce that. Because when we are at the stage of becoming a friend or ally or enemy, we are blinded by that. We are blind by this love and hate relationship. We cannot see past that. It is pretty dangerous. So we want to reduce that to attachment or maybe just animosity. And if we can, we want to reduce that to just craving, a desire, or just aversion. If we can, we just reduce it to likes and dislikes. It is still okay to stay with craving and aversion so long as you have a limit to that craving and aversion. You have a boundary, you have a fence, you have your limit. So if you go for a drink, for a drink at night, you say, well, yes, two pints. Everybody has a different limit. Or 2 glasses of wine, That's my limit. I don't go beyond that limit. So my craving may be, 2 bars of chocolate, the whole week or something like that. Okay, so we form a limit to protect ourselves. One of the Horus master says, craving do not have what is it? The stomach of craving is limitless. Right. So we cannot be satisfied with this craving because it has a limitless stomach. Right. So you have to understand there's no way of satisfying craving. It grows. Same thing with aversion. This is a natural process of dependent origination. So through craving, you have views, and the craving gets stronger and goes on. So the first thing to understand is that all these things, all the things that we feel, comes from our own creation, not somebody else. We like somebody, we dislike somebody. It is because of our own creation of the mental identities of that person. So in one way, it is good news because it is within us. We can deal with it. We can find ways to reduce it. If it is outside us, in the thing itself, then we have no control. Because it is within us, we can manage our views. We can manage our mental identities. We can change our views. We can change the mental identities that we have created. Okay, so that's the good news. So we have control of the world because the world is within us. We have control how we feel about the world because it is within us. Because they are formed from views and mental identity. Change the view, change the mental identities, our feeling changes because the feelings are built into those mental identities that we have created. Okay, so we don't have to be afraid of the world. We just have to be afraid of the mental identities and views that we have created. We have to be fearful of the views that we have created within those mental identities. So when we know the cause of the rising of this mental phenomena in our mind, the rising of these feelings, the rising of these views, the rising of these emotions, then we have a solution. We can deal with it because we know the causes. We can destroy those causes. When those causes leads to suffering. Okay, so in the end, we become an addict if you don't watch out. We're addicted to hating somebody. We're addicted to this particular person. Okay, so in the end, we become dependent on the things and people in the world, without which suffering arises. So we do not want to reach a state of dependence on things and people in the world, which are just our mental identity. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and take any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Tanajan, for the talk. You're welcome to ask questions. Also, if our Zoom participants have questions, please feel free to just unmute and ask also. Okay.
You can listen and then repeat it to me. It's much easier than shifting the camera. And
Tanajan, the question is when we have extreme events like passing away of a loved one or passing away of a pet, or when we have situations that lead to extreme grief or extreme anger or emotions like that, the question is, if we reject this emotion outright, it is kind of denying.
you're talking about emotions of grief, is it?
Yes, Tanajan, a strong grief or strong situations that lead to strong anger,
Okay.
very strong emotions. If we deny them, we are denying.
Yeah. Our emotions are real. We cannot reject our emotions, whether it is grief or whether it is rejection from other people. Our emotion arises due to dependent origination because we have gone from light to attachment. You see, craving causes suffering because we can't get what we crave for. Right? Attachment, the feeling of attachment is nice. But when we lose what we attach to, we fall back to craving for what is lost. So if we build up to attachment and addiction, then when we lose something, we fall back to craving for what we have lost. And craving, the second noble truth, is the cause of suffering. So the feeling of grief, the feeling of loss is real. We have to stay with that feeling until it ceases. We have this feeling because we have progressed from light craving to attachment. So these feelings, we will have to work with it and let it cease. There's no other way. If you become addicted to something, then you have to go through the cold treatment. If you're addicted to your phone, then you put your phone away for 1 week and suffer with this feeling. Right? So the feelings, we just stay with it. We don't let it progress. We can try to reduce this feeling. Okay? So the point is to prevent ourselves to get from light to craving, from craving to attachment. Once we have gone there, then these are the consequences of suffering. Attachment is the potential cause for suffering. So that's why in the last year we become dependent on the things and people in the world, without which suffering arises. So we do not want to get to that state of dependence. Because when we get to that state of dependence through attachment, through becoming strongly attached, then suffering will arise eventually. Okay. Does that answer your question?
I also have a further question because the attachment is linked to like. So if we say not sure about this likeness, it's very hard as well. Because this craving is related to this likeness. So if we say, oh, we don't like that, it's very hard because we like that person.
Tanajan, the question is in the diagram, the craving, it is dependent on liking. So liking leads to craving. And the question is, she says, it is very difficult to say not sure to this liking because we already like this thing. So we can't say not sure to liking.
Yeah. We say because liking comes from views and mental identity. We say not sure to the mental identities and views, not to the liking. Okay. So what we are asking, the question is something we will be dealing with in our next session. How to reduce suffering. Okay. So tonight we are dealing with how we create our own suffering. So the next session will be how we reduce those suffering. Okay, so tonight we have to know the causes of suffering. The cause of the suffering because we have let this feeling of life progress to craving, to attachment, and to become. Okay, so your question really relates to next session, which you will do in a workshop and find for yourself how to reduce those suffering. Okay?
Okay, Tanajan, thank you.
Okay.
More questions? If the online participants have questions, feel free to unmute and ask.
So the important thing that you want to get away in this talk is that you build your own world. That's the first thing, your own personal world. So your world and other people's world are totally different. It would be a surprise if they are the same as yours, unless their conditioning is the same. So if you like, your siblings, share certain values in both your worlds. Okay, so don't be surprised if somebody feels differently from the way you feel. Okay, because that is their world about anything. Okay, don't be surprised if somebody feels differently about yourself or about somebody else, because they build their own mental identities of what they like. They build in whatever feelings in a particular mental identity. Their mental identities are totally different from yours. Okay? So you don't assume that everybody sees or feels the same way as you do towards a particular person, towards a particular thing, towards anything. You have control over your own world. You do not have control over somebody else's world. Because their world is due to their mental identities and views, and it's very difficult to change your mental identity and your views. You also find it is also difficult to change your mental identities and your own views. The question, so there's no absolute right and wrong in this world. That's the answer is whatever that is in the world, they are totally not sure. Because the right and wrong depends on your assumption. So the question is it right to take off your outdoor shoes before you go into somebody's house? In Asia, we take off our outdoor shoes before we go into somebody else. In the West, we don't do that. So is it right? It is just a cultural. It is just a cultural thing, right? Now so in terms of right and wrong, they depend on the society you live in. So there is conventional truth, conventional right and wrong. So it's wrong not to take off your outdoor shoes before you go into somebody's house, right? Because they think it is right for you to do that. It is wrong to take off your outdoor shoes and walk in with your socks into somebody else's house in the West. So right and wrong depends on convention. There is an absolute right and wrong according to the law, the moral laws, because that have consequences. The 5 precepts, not killing, abstaining from killing, abstaining from taking what is not yours, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from lying, abstaining from things that cause mindlessness. Those moral laws, those 5 precepts, there is a right and there's a wrong. Because it is wrong, because it creates bad results. It draws you into creating more bad results. Okay, that's the answer. There is conventional right and wrong. It is wrong to drive on the right side of the road in Malaysia. It is wrong to drive on the left side of the road in America. And that's pretty obvious, you know. So there is conventional right and wrong, but there are also absolute, what we can talk about is skillfulness and unskillfulness. Right and wrong is conventional. Skillfulness and unskillfulness is absolute. Absolute truth. So if you like, generosity is skillful. It leads to good result. Stinginess is unskillful. It leads to undesirable result. Okay, so it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of whether it's skillful. So is it skillful to have attachment? They say, oh, attachment is wonderful. I have all these things I'm attached to. But is it skillful? When you lost what you are attached to, then suffering arises. You have to think for yourself, is that skillful or unskillful? Eventually, you're going to lose whatever that you're holding on to, because whatever it is, they are all temporary. They don't last. If you hold on to your own image of hold on to this image of beauty, image of you, or image, whatever it is, knowing that image is not going to last. And you're going to suffer because you're dependent on that image. You're attached to that image to create this particular security. Okay?
Thank you, Tanajan. There's one more question from this side. Tanajan, the question is, there's one problem that a friend has been bothered recently. Her question is, if one says good person gets good returns, is that also not sure?
A good deed, a good action will bring good results. It's just that when you plant a mango seed, you will definitely get mango. You cannot get lime. If you plant lime, you will get lime. It is straightforward as that. What is not sure is when this kind of karma will ripen. You cannot say, I do good things and expect bad results. Or I do bad things and expect good results. It's just like planting mango seed, expecting lime, or planting a lemon seed and expecting mango. So there is a cause. The action is karma. There is a cause, and there's a result coming from the cause. And that's also dependent on origination. Depending on the good actions, you get good result. Depending on the bad action, you get bad result. So it is, when we talk about a person, we are talking, a person is we don't talk in terms of person, we talk in terms of action. We talk in terms of intention. Good intention brings good result. Bad intentions bring bad result. And that is dependent on origination. That is the law of causes and effect. A law is definitely sure. Right? Like the law of gravity, if you let go of something, it's going to fall down to the ground. Right? That's the law. Okay? So this is something that you have to take on this law of dependent origination. This law of karma. It is one of the first things that you have to accept, as a Buddhist or practicing Buddhist or learning about Buddhism.
Okay, Tanajan, it is clear now.
Okay, it's a law, yeah.
So it is just the action for sure leads to this result, but we are not sure when it will ripen, and also we are not sure about the other causes that affect our current result, right?
That is true. Yeah, there is, karma is not one form. There is also supportive karma. There's obstructive karma as well. Right? So karma is complicated. But the answer is direct, that when you do skillful things, there is skillful result. That is just a simple law, that's all. When it arises, we're not sure. If it's something that is not very strong, it will disappear within this lifetime. If not, then it will come up again in future lives.
Okay, Tanajan, it's clear now. Any more questions?
Okay.
Okay, Tanajan, thank you so much for giving us teachings. Everything is very clear. Thank you so much for waking up early in the morning to give us teachings. We'll see you next week, Tanajan. Next week we have the workshop on reducing suffering and the workshop on clay modeling.
Okay.
Thank you, Tanaja.
Okay. Good night, good night.